Welcome to everybody for our first webinar for 2015. Once again, seeing some new faces in our, I guess some new names, not some new faces, in our webinar series. So very happy New Year to you, and thanks for joining us today for our first edition of the LaunchPad Webinar series for 2015. As always, I'd like to welcome my partner in crime, Armando Alas.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here this morning. It's a great new year, 2015. All best wishes to everyone, and I guess we're getting ready for to launch the 2015 assault. So all best wishes to all the ICs. You know, may your business continue to grow.
All right, good stuff. So the usual format that we're going to be following, we'll start off with some of the latest news and events that are taking place, making the rounds in the digital marketing industry that we feel that you should be aware of as consultants. And then Armando's got a really cool sales tip that's lined up for the week. And then, as we mentioned a couple of webinars back, where there's going to be one section that's dedicated to inbound marketing based on our recent certification of HubSpot and becoming HubSpot certified partners. We feel there's definitely a lot of value in opting in for an inbound marketing strategy, but there's a few different things that you need to be following and be aware of when it comes to introducing inbound marketing to your prospects and to your clients. So in sync with that, what we're doing is that we've created this whole inbound marketing section in our weekly webinars, where we'll be addressing one topic at a time that's related to inbound marketing and slowly but steadily introducing you to the entire methodology. And this week we have a very important topic, I guess the first question that all the ICs need to ask when they are potentially considering inbound marketing for their prospects or their existing clients, and that is, who is a good qualifier or who is a good prospect for inbound marketing? So that's a question that we'll be addressing today in the inbound marketing segment of our LaunchPad webinar, and then we'll be following up with our regular Q&A session. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we are also having a panel discussion towards the end of this month in one of our LaunchPad webinars. It's most likely going to be in towards the last webinar for this month in January. I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Armando, but I believe the last Tuesday falls on the 30th of January, right? Just checking our calendars here, but I believe it is the 30th of January. So
The 27th.
The 27th. Okay.
January 27th. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So the 27th of Jan is going to be a panel discussion that we are hosting as a part of our LaunchPad webinar group. And if you'd like to be a part of this panel discussion, please feel free to shoot us an email at info@wsialm.com. We are potentially looking at about 4 ICs to be a part of this panel discussion. We have a couple of names in our minds already, but we'd definitely be open to participation from you. And the discussion is all about 2015, your goals as ICs, some of the areas, some of the services that you want to focus on in 2015, a little discussion on the industry trends and the topics. So if this is something that's of interest for you, it's going to be a nice, strong discussion. We'll be leading the discussion and then have everybody's, the IC, the panelists' opinions shared with the group. So it should be interesting. If you want to participate in this panel discussion, please feel free to shoot us an email. We'll take the invitations on a first come first serve basis. So shoot us an email at info@wsialm.com or armando@wsialm.com, and then we'll take the requests as they come in. All right, so let's move on for some of the news items that we want to cover for the week. So GM came up with a pretty interesting announcement this week. They've been getting a lot of requests, almost over 35 million requests for directions, over 53 million mobile app interactions that people are essentially undertaking, while driving. So keeping in mind all of this interaction that's taking place when people are actually in their cars, they've launched a new service, and this is ahead of the CES that's happening in Vegas. Which is the Consumer Electronics Show, right? That's actually starting up pretty soon. So now they've launched this service, this whole new area called At Your Service. And At Your Service is a whole range of different service offerings that GM is putting together for GM drivers right in their car itself. This includes things like maintenance alerts, includes things like location finder. So there's a lot of focus on local search that's taking place in this new service that they've launched. They've tied up with the likes of Dunkin' Donuts and Priceline, so as to really aid and enable direction finding, recommendations, things like eating, shopping, playing, etc., as a part of this whole console of services that they've developed. Which is quite interesting because, again, there's a lot of time that we're spending on the car, especially when we're commuting, and GM's initiative to come up with this whole aspect of at your service that's in the car is setting a precedent. The other car manufacturers most likely are going to follow suit, and what this is going to do is that it's going to, again, bring up the overall number of searches being conducted. Potentially voice searches. So that's going to be interesting with how the volumes for Siri and Cortana get impacted. Those are like the actual search assistants for Apple and for Bing. So this was one of the announcements that GM came up with fairly recently. We wanted to share with you. The other news item was if you guys have seen your traffic fluctuate from Yahoo and Bing over the past couple of days, then there's a reason for it, and the reason is the fact that Yahoo and Bing were actually down. So they were down for about 3 or 4 hours, and this took place, I believe, a couple of days back. So if you've seen any sort of like funny data in your analytics, and if Yahoo and Bing are referring traffic to you to a certain extent, then you would have seen that percentage drop for that particular day. And again, if you're scratching your head as to what the reason is, well, the reason is the fact that Yahoo and Bing were actually down. The engineers at Yahoo actually blamed it on a bad code update. So there were some updates that we're trying to do in the backend of the search engine that essentially caused this whole breakdown to take place. Again, something to definitely proactively bring to the attention of your clients and your prospects, so that this way they understand what essentially took place as far as the dip in traffic is concerned. All right, so the other interesting news item that was circulating the rounds, that was doing the rounds, was the Google's Digital Millennium copywriting notices. So this started off at about 2 or 3 years back when Google launched DMCA, and they said, look, if you are potentially impacted by a copyright infringement, then you can file a notice with Google, and we will do our best to take that result down. And it's been pretty effective because a lot of people are seeing a lot of copyright issues when it comes to the internet. And it was an interesting stat that Google shared. When Google actually launched DMCA, this was in 2012, they would probably be getting around 500, 600 requests a month. Compare that to 2014, and the Google's DMCA notices actually reached 345 million requests in 2014, which is a pretty high number. Obviously, this is not a manual effort. Google's automated this, so they have automated systems in place to check a DMCA complaint when it comes in, and they basically remove the offending material from their search results. And what's been interesting is that the DMCA complaints have been targeted towards reputation management oriented websites. So sites like Complaints Board, chillingeffects.org has had a lot of DMCA complaints against that website, and a lot of results have been taken down. So from a reputation management perspective is where this whole DMCA is area of DMCA has sort of like become very active, and people are taking advantage of it. So if you do feel that there is a distinct case of copyright infringement when it comes to either your material or your client's material, then you should definitely be filing a DMCA complaint for Google to look into, and then remove the offending link that's being displayed in their search engine. All right. So the next news item we wanted to bring to your attention was a really cool infographic that was brought to the attention by one of the ICs, and we thought we'd share this with you because this infographic really encapsulates the ranking factors for 2014 really nicely, and it's a great infographic, something that can be shared, and again, you can repurpose this content into a blog post that you can produce for your own website, or just share this with your clients. just because it sums up the ranking factors really, really well, and it's all done visually, so it's easier to digest as far as the information is concerned. So it kind of starts off with the whole, with these different survival tips that the authors put out there. And the first section that the author tackles really is the user relevancy when it comes to content. And there's a whole bunch of factors that the authors try to highlight, but there's two factors that we want to distinctly highlight to the ICs that are logged on with regards to optimizing content and text for their pages. The first aspect that we want to highlight is that the author's seen that when it comes to advertising, the pages that are ranking high in Google, the top 10 results, do not have advertising high up in the pages. And this is a pretty important metric to consider, because a lot of us are tempted to put in AdSense right on the top, right below. You have our navigation, our top navigation, and our header, and then right below the header we have like the actual content of the article, and then we're very tempted to kind of put in like a little 100 by 100 display box that rotates the AdSense ads for Google as displayed in this particular image over here. Be wary about that, and you're cautioned that the top results in Google do not have any advertising above the fold. Google is not necessarily encouraging that, because it's seen as a sign of not being very user-friendly in terms of producing the content for the visitors, right? The second aspect that we wanted to highlight was to make your page interesting, make the information easier to consume for the readers that are coming onto the page by giving them information in a variety of different forms, not just text, but also utilizing images and videos. And videos are only gaining traction. WSI is tied up with a fantastic vendor, SoMedia, that has a penetration all across North America. They can actually come into your client's office and shoot amazing videos. There's some really cool videos that they've done, and they're fairly reasonable. There's a special deal on for the ICs for 30-second and 60-second clips that they produce. So they've done a terrific job in terms of having a pretty vast network of videographers that can come in and actually shoot clips in your client's office, and they can potentially do it anywhere in North America. So these are services that we as IC should definitely be taking advantage of, and positioning this to our clients. Video is massive. I think everybody on this call and this webinar understands the power of video, and how potentially you can be utilizing video even as a paid advertising strategy, and getting more traction from the videos. Again, add a whole bunch of dynamic elements, not just text, but adding videos and images to your page so as to increase the visitor engagement on the page, increasing your average time on page and average time on site metrics. That is definitely an indicator for Google. The other aspect is, again, not just focusing on one particular keyword, but going rather for that genre, as was very clearly identified by Google in their Hummingbird update, where they went after sites that were focusing on one particular keyword on a page quite aggressively. The whole aspect of going after a particular keyword type, and then not just optimizing for one keyword, but various different phrases that are focused around that keyword, and addressing that topic as a whole, not just that one particular keyword. Going on, the author talks about the second survival tip, which is around site architecture. And again, there's a whole bunch of things that the authors talked about, but a couple of things that we want to highlight for the ICs that are signed on today is, look at this number here. 98%, like most of the URLs that are ranking high in Google, have a site speed of less than a load time of less than 1 second. They have a load time of 0.99 seconds, which is something definitely to consider, because the site load time is a huge factor, and it's a quick win, because once you fix your load time, you can see that this also impacts your overall rankings and your organic results. And you can see from the data that's been presented that most of the sites that are ranking in the top in Google have a load time of less than a second, which is pretty incredible. So here's something quick and simple that you can do in terms of optimizing your page and benefiting from a high ranking and sending another positive signal to Google as far as your website is concerned. This was kind of like the major thing that comes about in terms of the site architecture, and there's obvious things like keep your load times short, keep obviously a site up to date with all the patches, security updates, and maintaining your presence of all the relevant meta tags. Here's a flag, a big flag. Whenever you're doing any sort of updates whatsoever, we come across this all the time where the meta tags get erased. You know, you update a piece of code on the website and the meta tags disappear. You update something else on the web page and then there's, you know, the code that disappears or the tags disappear. And if that happens, then what's happening is that you're sending conflicting messages to Google, and that's going to impact your results overall. So be very careful when there's any updates that are taking place with your web pages or your website. Have a checklist. You know, if you're incorporating a webmaster in terms of getting your updates done, make sure the webmaster is following a proper checklist just to make sure all these things are taken care of. The third survival tip that the author talks about is quality backlinks. And I think this has been a huge discussion topic for a fairly long time. And I think here's where the biggest challenge that lies in is money versus quality, right? The production centers and the suppliers are trying to standardize the delivery of backlinks to a very great extent, primarily because their hands are tied with the amount of funds that they have available and you know what the ICs want to put out there in terms of budget levels. So again, it's a question of quality, budget, and what you really essentially want to put out there. Having said that, you can even put out good quality backlinks for a relatively low cost. And what I mean by this, one perfect example that comes to mind is citation link building. You know, that's very effective, especially if you have a local client. It's quality backlinks because citation sites are good sites to be a part of, and there's nothing wrong with having backlinks generated from citation sites. Plus, you're sending a very positive signal to Google when you have your NAP consistency when you're building these citation links, right? We recently launched, well, not recently launched, I'd say probably in the IC network we recently launched this, but we've had it for our direct-to-customer division for a pretty long time, enterprise level link building. And the way that we do our enterprise level link building, which again is the future of link building, is there is no guaranteed number of links. We build links based on an hourly system, because the way that we actually build a full backlink campaign is based on prospecting and outreach. So we use tools like BuzzSumo, which is like an enterprise level prospecting tool, and we build out campaigns. Like, for example, we actually build out sponsorship campaigns where we'd set up, like, let's say we'd allocate a budget for a little scholarship fund, whether it's $300 or $500, and then we'd reach out to universities talking about the scholarship fund that we've set up so that we can generate some .edu links. And again, I don't have to stress the importance of .edu links in our backlink profile to the ICs that are signed on here. So those are kind of like some of the things that we do at the enterprise level. But again, there is no guarantees there because it's all about the effort that we're putting in. A lot of transparency in terms of, you know, how many sites did we outreach to, what sort of campaigns we launched, where did the hours go. So there's a lot of transparency when it comes to that, but there's really no guarantees in terms of how many links we're going to get, because that's the nature of the service. You want to do good work, you want to do quality work, we can definitely put out some estimations on how many links we can potentially generate. But again, it's not about the number, it's all about the quality of links that we generate at the enterprise level. And of course, the enterprise level comes at a price because of the quality of resources that are deployed for the campaigns. So again, it's all about quality backlinks as a huge metric when it comes to the ranking factors. Social signals, again, Google over the past 3 or 4 months has sort of like lowered social signals to an extent where they don't pay as much attention to it as they were previously. But having said that, social signals always help. If there's something that's trending and if a lot of people are retweeting it and liking it and plus oneing it, obviously Google's going to pay attention to that, because if something's getting popular, it's a potentially good content. It's verifiable. Google wants to rank it high. So social signal is something that you can definitely not ignore in your overall digital marketing strategy and your SEO strategy overall. User signals, very important, and user signals primarily constitute things like your time on site and your bounce rates. Anything in the 30% range is a really good bounce rate to have, depending on whether you're running any paid search campaigns or not. And if you have your average time on site above 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that's again a good sign where people are definitely quite engaged with your website. So just wanted to share this infographic with you today. It's a great little infographic, and there's a lot more information that you can go through in terms of how the information was derived from what kind of like data sets. And the company that put this together was Searchmetrics. We did report the Searchmetrics ranking factors study in I believe in November in our LaunchPad webinar, but one of the ICs had recently sent across this infographic to us, and we thought that was pretty cool to share with the rest of you. All right, so passing it on to Armando, we decided to kind of switch it up a little bit. So Armando's going to take over now, and then I'm going to come back in and present the HubSpot slide, plus Armando's got a sales-oriented slide as well. Over to you, Armando.
Thank you, Vinish. Excellent. Interestingly enough, one of the things that I found was actually an interesting post or infographic as well on the best time to post on social media. Now, one of the reasons we are kind of sharing these infographics with you is because you can, as Vinisha said, you can use them in various ways. A, for your PowerPoint presentations that you may be doing. B, they can also be repurposed as you write your own summary. Once you share it on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, you can actually share these as well. So there is a reason behind it why we're doing this. And this one is specific that I found, which is what are the best times on social media, is because that I know that many ICs are actually have an in-house person or an in-house team managing their social media, and sometimes, you know what, with so much information out there, you're trying to determine what are really the best times that I should be posting for my client, right? When should I be having the team do this, my own social media person, or if I have to do it, right? Because I know that some ICs actually enjoy doing social media management. So I thought this would be a great article. Again, it's from QuickSprout. We all know our friend Neil Patel. I'm pretty sure most of you by now are signed on to his blog, but I kind of wanted to share with you because sometimes, we get so much information in our email, and we're like, okay, should I read that or not, etc. So this was a great one that I thought would be interesting for you to have a look at, because it definitely shares some good information. So that's a little bit of a preempt. Letting you know that there is a purpose behind us sharing these infographics for you to share with your clients, with your LinkedIn network, or also with your own team. So looking at the one of the first ones to talk about, Facebook. Interestingly enough, if you look at this one, you can see that the best days to post are actually Thursdays and Fridays. And what was kind of interesting, I mean, I kind of thought about that, was the fact that 3.5, the engagement rates actually fall below 3.5 if you do them from Monday to Wednesday. So the best days are actually Thursday and Friday, and you can actually see even a bit of a spike on Friday at the end, and that's because obviously, you know what, people want to when you get to Thursday or Friday, they're thinking more about the weekend. They want, they want to be at home. They don't really want to be at work, so the more they will Facebook. So this is one interesting fact that you should keep in mind, where if you are a Facebook user, or you have your own Facebook account and you do postings for your clients, you want to focus on Thursday and Friday. It didn't give us a lot in regards to how many companies the number of companies that actually did this analysis, but it does come from a very well based organization. I'll talk about it at the end, and they talk about the days. Then they also talk about the best times, which is to get the most shares, if you want people sharing, it's a 1 p.m. right after lunch, right? They're coming from lunch. Or if you want the best clicks at 3 p.m. And so those are the best times that you can actually post on Facebook, right? Again, these are just generic data times. It also depends on industries, but this is what they were actually able to share with us. Twitter, again, it's the weekend. It's more of a it seems to be that for B2B, it's a weekday tool, and for B2C, it's more of a weekend, and that's because the engagement level for consumers to review things with Twitter is a bit more of a lighter social media channel. So you can see that the engagements in CTRs is highest on weekends on B2C type of conversations or relationships, whereas B2B, it's good to do it during the week. I know that sometimes we get some feedback from ICs asking as well, should we be using Twitter? Is that a good a medium? And it really depends on, again, the industry and also the type of campaign that you'll be running, because Twitter can be very positive as a social media platform. Although I will tell you that internally we have probably classified Twitter behind Facebook, LinkedIn, and perhaps ahead of Google Plus, as Google Plus it does continue to make a push, but still Twitter is a little bit more relevant right now, or at least mostly used right now, more popular. So that's Twitter. Best times again, 12 p.m. It seems to get the highest click-through rate. So when people go out to their lunch, it's Twitter is very fast, very easy to use. So people will be tweeting or looking up their tweets and so on. If you could just scroll down, Manish, please. And this infographic actually gives you different tool tips on how to use the tools. So excellent to share with your internal team, or you can execute yourself. Now this is an interesting one because obviously our business is B2B, and we do have some expert LinkedIn users and evangelists amongst the WSI network. And again, LinkedIn, the best days to post: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? And I know that there are some ICs that are very, very involved with LinkedIn, and they do it every day. But I'm pretty sure that if they were to look down at the data, they will probably confirm that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best days to post. If you just don't mind scrolling down. Avinish, please. Excellent. So also it tells you the times, which this is actually an analysis of 14 million users. Okay, and the most clicks and shares are on Tuesdays between 10 and 11 a.m. Okay, you also get some traction between 5 and 6, right, and 7 and 8. Basically, when you're looking at 7 and 8, they seem to be the best times to post. And I know that one of the ICs that we're working very closely with, she is a very strong advocate of LinkedIn. We're probably going to have her as a panel guest in the next few weeks, and she'll tell you that, part of her daily activity is to do LinkedIn postings in the beginning of the day and towards the end of the day, and it's really a focus time for her. So I know that this has been tested and proven. So again, very important. I think that all the ICs should, if you can spend time doing your improving your social media activities, LinkedIn will be one of those mediums that we would recommend. Okay, Pinterest. This one seems to be a weekend social media property. Again, Saturday seems to be the best day to pin from 8 to 11, and that's because it's downtime. And I could tell you that I see my wife always. I'm not a big fan of Pinterest, but I can always see her doing that. And in previous conversations or previous webinars, we've talked about the fact that women tend to be a fan of the highest number of users in Pinterest. So best time to pin are Saturday 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. I don't know about that. That's probably for party goers. And also 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on a Saturday, downtime. If you're not watching any television or watching a movie, you can probably catch people doing some pinning on Pinterest. Okay, so these are some information again. The peak time to post on Pinterest for fashion and retail is Friday at 3 p.m. Again, it also varies by industry. Instagram, that was also caught me a little bit off guard because on the Monday I would personally not be thinking of Instagram, but it looks like best day to post according to TrackMaven is on Mondays. So if you have clients that use Instagram, you kind of want to make sure that they're posting on Instagram during this day, as well as very off work hours. It's one of those things that they do see spikes between 3 to 4 p.m. But overall, it's more of an off hours type of social media property. Okay, and the last one I think is Google Plus, which is also another feature one. This one, I guess, very similar to Facebook, does get a lot of activity, and LinkedIn does get a lot of activity throughout the week. So you can actually post any day of the week. Activity decreases over the weekend, but social media posts on Wednesday at 9 a.m. To 11 are probably the best times that you should be posting on Google Plus. Again, social media as a social media property, Google Plus is still growing. So it's not as active as other social media properties, but it's something that's being used. So if for your SEO strategies you want to complement, or your SEO strategies you want to be doing your postings in order to get those social signals, 9/11. Okay, and that was pretty much it. And in conclusion, I kind of like the conclusion that Neil Patel had on this one. If you just keep scrolling down, okay, in the other page, basically. Apart from the fact that they did use some really valid data and valid companies that actually focus on this, so this is not just Neil Patel coming to us based on his own experience, because he tends to sometimes be a little bit biased. For this one, actually, they use companies like Buffer, Fanet, that actually did this test, so it's very valuable data. But the best data is, again, you have to try yourself, have your team try it, have your client try it, you try yourself, and see if you, for yourself, what are the best times. Okay, but this is some, if you don't know where to start, a good indication of when to do your posts. Vinish, any comments from your end or feedback?
No, I just wanted to add the fact that he definitely used Dan Zarella quite extensively in this particular infographic where he pulled the data set from. Dan Zarella, I think, might ring a bell for some of the ICs. Dan was one of the featured speakers, keynote speakers, and one of the guests at the convention a couple of years back, and he presented there. He's even there for some book signings. He launched his book on social media, and he was there for book signings. So Dan Zarella might ring a bell. So Dan's also very extensively involved with HubSpot, and Neil's used his data sets quite extensively when he's come up with this particular infographic. So just wanted to flag that particular observation there for the ICs. Good stuff.
Excellent. So again, enjoy this, enjoy the infographic and share it, repurpose it. Okay, perfect. The next slide is pretty much our sales tip, and then we'll move on to HubSpot. And I know that beginning of the year, your clients are getting back to the office. Some of them are maybe you're still on vacation, but you know that January, for many of you, there are going to be some really good important meetings happening in regards to 2014 results. If you haven't met with your client to review that, I thought that I'd probably share a very, very simple tip, but very effective tip. This is coming again from Google's Digital Media Advisor methodology, and like I said, I think I've kind of talked to you a little bit about it a few weeks back. Google has been spending the efforts in helping their channel partners get better, increase their sales. So they are putting a little bit skin on the game in regards to training people to become better consultants. So their Digital Media Advisor series is on YouTube. You can check it out. And this is one of the ones that I thought was kind of interesting because sometimes I do get questions from my ICs in regards to what do I do, or how do I approach, or what is the best way to approach a client reporting meeting, right? I have to go meet with the client next week. There's a lot of issues involved in it. Good news, some bad news, or no news at all because I haven't been able to get a hold of a client for the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I'm waiting for them to provide me with feedback on content, etc. If you are able to actually book the meeting, this is a good little methodology that you can follow. Very simple, basic, but effective, right? So always when you're going to meet with a client, you want to be able to be prepared, and this is one of the ways that you can prepare for it. Now, before we get into the point system, POINT, purpose, outline, input, transition, which is really an agenda statement when you're meeting with the client. So you are now at the client meeting. Okay, you already booked the meeting. You're at their office. You're going to be meeting with them. When you get to their office, you know that they're all over the place. They have issues in the production. They may have issues with their sales team. They have family issues. So you have to be able to capture and optimize those 30 minutes or 1 hour of their time, and you want them to focus on you. In order to do that, you have to prepare for that, and you have to guide them. And this is a very good way of doing this. Now, before you get to the meeting, you want to have a clear agenda, okay? And that will definitely help you prepare, but also put the client at ease by removing any uncertainty. They want to make sure that you don't want to get to a meeting and they don't even know what the meeting is all about. They don't know if you're going to be using their time wisely, or are you really there to waste their time because of all the things that they're doing. That day, they're carving out 30 minutes or 1 hour of their time for you. So it's very important that you have an agenda ahead of time, and if you are able to be very diligent and methodical about it, even setting the agenda ahead of time wouldn't be a bad idea. You don't have to send the details, just some of the things that you want to cover, and you want to ask them if they would like to cover something as well, so you can include it into the agenda. Okay, so once you get to that point in the conversation that you're going to have with them, you want to definitely follow this system and maybe prepare for this system before you start. The first thing is purpose, right? In this way is the key thing is, why are we having the meeting? And the most important thing that you want to address at this stage is what's in it for them, right? So at the beginning of your conversation, you want to set purpose and the tonality to the meeting, and you want to not only just tell them why we're having this meeting, but what's in it for them. What's the added value that they're getting out of this? Why is this important? Then the second thing, very simple, outline the topics that you like to cover. Again, this is part of your PowerPoint presentation agenda. It's very important that you have this. If you don't want to use a PowerPoint, I'm not a fan of you just kind of giving them the report and letting them read it, or just bringing it in paper, letting them read it. Try to have a bit of a standard template PowerPoint where you're covering specific things, because you want to highlight top level things, right? So you can kind of talk to them about you want to share some of the performance highlights for December, and you also with the outline, you want to also hear some feedback from him on the latest priorities that they may have, right? If they've given you already some notes or some feedback prior to the meeting, you want to add them and go over that outline. If they would like to hear some of the latest priorities in their marketing for 2015, you want to cover that, and you also want to share some ideas for, let's say, January, right? What's going to happen in January 2015? What are you planning to do for the digital marketing strategy, whatever strategy that is? Okay, so the outline is really to cover the topics that you want to cover related to their overall strategy. And N stands for input. At this time, you also want to get some feedback from them, because if they have failed to share any information with you prior to the meeting, and it may be in their mind, but it's not in your radar because you're not aware of it, this is the opportunity to find out if there's anything the client would like to add to the meeting. Okay, because maybe that day they realize that one of their lead sources, it's no longer required, and they're looking for a new lead source. So it may be an opportunity for you to do a new campaign on email marketing, PPC. They haven't done that before with you. So always, this is an opportunity for you to not only just give the client control, because you're asking them for their input, you're making them participate in this process, as well as be aware of opportunities that may exist. Okay, and then right away you want to transition to the first topic in your agenda. So remember, very simple. If you can follow this on your monthly, quarterly reporting meetings, that'll be great. Follow the point system, POINT. If you don't mind moving Vinish to the next slide, I'm kind of going to go over a little bit more detail. So items to discuss. Let's say if you're doing a client reporting meeting, what are some of the items to discuss that you want to discuss? Don't just hand over the reporting to them and give them the all of the Google Analytics or if you're using G-Shift reports and letting them kind of make interpret the data. You actually have to review the summary of activities, because this is very important, because if all you're giving them is just the analytics reporting, they don't know what else got accomplished. So you want to tell them, look, this month we wrote some content, you approve it, it was posted, we did some link building, we actually also completed a press release, we did some social media postings. If you're doing adaptive SEO, maybe you did some video distribution, etc. If you're doing PPC, maybe that month, you know what, we actually completed an extra landing page for you this week. So you want to make sure that you review the summary of activities, because that's what they're paying for. They want to know, okay, well, I'm paying you X amount of dollars. What are the deliverables? So here's a good chance for you to kind of highlight that, or identify that, or share that with the client. Then you want to highlight campaign performance, wins, losses, and opportunities, right? Don't kind of tell them, well, you know what, we dipped in traffic. Trust me, it's going to be okay. Trust me on this. And, as the graph shows, after 3 months, you can't continue to tell the client. You have to be able to tell them the wins, the losses, and some of the opportunities, and why there's a reasoning behind it. You have to be prepared to answer the tough questions. So don't just go to the meeting. Don't prepare 1 hour before the meeting. I've seen that before with a few ICs that are calling me or the team asking them, I have a meeting in an hour, why was this not done, or why has this been done, what's happening? Please, prepare to answer the tough questions ahead of time. In answering those tough questions, you'll be able to identify opportunities with recommendations. So definitely, if there's an opportunity that you see, highlight that opportunity, but also educate the client on why they should adapt that tactic or that digital marketing strategy. You have to educate them. Don't just expect just because you highlight that opportunity they're going to move forward. You have to educate them. Then the next thing is you want to get the client's buy-in and commitment to follow through. Again, I see many ICs kind of fail on this, and they'll be great at identifying opportunities, but you kind of have to be a little bit like a you gotta kind of hang on to it, kind of like a dog chewing a bone. You don't want to let go of it, because what happens is that once you leave the client meeting, the only person that's pretty much going to remember everything is going to be you, because your client will actually go into the rest of the day, and then the rest of the week, the rest of the weeks, and the rest of the month. And definitely you want to make sure that you want to list out to him the takeaways, hand him his deliverables, what he has to bring to you, right? And then you also want to set times to check in with milestones. That may include you submitting a new proposal and getting sign off, right? So already, pre-closing, always be closing. Okay, if you like us to provide you with a proposal on a new PPC campaign, I'm going to submit it to you today or later tomorrow morning. When can I expect it signed, right? You always want to be able to do that. Don't just take it for granted that because he wants a proposal, he's going to sign it off. Until the signature is there and the money's in the bank, is not a sale, right? So important. That also may include additional meeting time, a follow-up time, because in 2 weeks he's supposed to give you a report. Or also, it also may include you already booking the next meeting for next month. I know of an IC that does that very well. It keeps her very scheduled and with her agenda, but also preempts the client when it's prepares them for the next meeting. You also, for the very due diligent ones, after you get to the office, document them in an email as a follow-up. This is what we discussed today. Make sure we are doing this for the rest of the next weeks. This is what my team is going to do. This is what we expect you, Mr. Client, to do. So you want to do that. And in some cases, religious follow-up. Like I said, in today's world, just like you running very fast, imagine your clients as well running very fast, trying to grow their business. So you do have to have a sense of religious follow-up. If you can't do it, some of you already have a team of coordinators that are assigned to this. Make sure they adopt that religious follow-up. Don't let it follow through the cracks. And remember, always use the point system at the beginning of your agenda statements. So just wanted to share this with you. Hopefully it helps you. I'm pretty sure some of you guys are using some or all of it. So sometimes I like to call it going back to the basics. Vinish?
Excellent. No, that's great information, Armando. And again, thanks for taking the time to go through the Google methodology and then sharing that with us. This is terrific stuff. Again, this is being done with regards to a lot of the feedback that we've received, and a lot of the feedback that we got was focusing around presenting a lot of this information to the clients. So we kind of incorporating a lot of that in our LaunchPad webinar sessions that we're having every week. Great. Thanks for that, Armando. All right, so moving on to our next agenda, as mentioned, we are going to have a dedicated session on inbound marketing in each of our LaunchPad webinars. Just to remind everybody of the inbound methodology, 4 core steps. You got the attract phase, you got the conversion phase, the closing phase, and the delight phase, right? That's really the 4 pillars for the inbound marketing methodology that HubSpot's adopted for incorporating in their software. So one of the first things that we want to start off in terms of our education series on HubSpot is to deal with the primary question, which is, when do you really choose to potentially pitch HubSpot or this whole concept of inbound marketing to a client? What's a kind of a client that's a good fit for inbound marketing? So the first point that we want to talk about, which I guess is the main qualifier when it comes to qualifying your prospects for inbound marketing, is really the monthly marketing budget. So if you do have prospects that are spending in the range of like $500, $600, $700, $800, perhaps the individual digital marketing activities that you're recommending for them, whether it's a localized SEO strategy or a PPC strategy that's focused around a core group of keywords that are very specific to their business, stick with that, because that is a sort of a budget that's not a good range for a holistic inbound marketing activity. For a decent inbound marketing campaign, I'd say probably in the low end, along with HubSpot's fee, their software subscription, you're looking at least $2,000 to $2,500 a month. So that's kind of like your main qualifier. And to give you a little bit of a breakdown in terms of how this budget split up, so let's say that you're working with a supplier and the supplier gives you a solution for your client in the range of $1,000 or $1,500, right? Again, I'm kind of taking the low end, but let's say you get a solution in that range. Then you have to have a markup. Let's say you have a $500 or $1,000 markup, which is a ×2 markup on this proposal that's been given to you by your supplier. So he gives you a $1,000 solution. You mark it up to $2,000, plus your client's also got to pay the HubSpot subscription. The lowest fee starts at $200. Now, you can do a lot with the $200 HubSpot subscription as well. Agreed, it doesn't come with a whole bunch of the other bells and whistles that come in at the professional and the enterprise level. More importantly, the email marketing aspect, but that can be easily incorporated into the software by utilizing something like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp to integrate your email marketing efforts with the HubSpot software. So even with the $200 subscription, you can definitely do a lot with the software. So as I mentioned, so you get a solution from the supplier for about $1,000. Then you're looking at marking it up ×2. That brings it to $2,000. And then you're looking at the HubSpot fee, which is anywhere from $200 all the way up to $1,200 a month, right? So that brings you in that $2,500 range. Again, for a good, decent inbound marketing campaign, I'd even probably go as up as $3,000 a month. So as to have a good solution where you can put in a whole bunch of different deliverables that you're going to be incorporating for a strategy. But I'd say $2,500 or so is sort of like a good positioning for eliminating your clients or seeing whether they're a good fit for HubSpot or not in terms of their monthly marketing budget. So the next thing that we look at is their current marketing efforts. So let's say your client qualifies for the budget, so they have $2,500 and up to spend on a monthly basis. You also have to kind of look at their current marketing efforts. Are they utilizing a lot of different digital marketing components or different marketing mediums in their current strategy? So are they doing a mix of SEO? Are they doing a mix of paid? Are they incorporating email marketing in their strategy? Are they utilizing a lot of tools? Like, for example, are they utilizing tools like the keyword research tool, a blog post finder tool, or a suggestion tool, or tools like email marketing automation tools? So if they're utilizing a lot of different tools in their current marketing activity, then it's probably a good idea for them to combine, consolidate everything, achieve efficiencies, economies of scale, and potentially look at inbound marketing as well as a software like HubSpot, so as to make their lives a lot easier and make the marketing more strategic and more focused. So this is the second qualifier. And the flag for this is that if they are incorporating a lot of tools, if they are doing a lot of different things out there with regards to their digital marketing efforts, it's probably a good idea to bring everything together under one roof so it's easier to manage everything and you're achieving a lot of efficiency. The third aspect to look into from a client perspective, and I know this is probably one of the big ones, is this whole aspect of content marketing. Right? Now, if you look at the inbound marketing methodology, one of the main areas, and this is a link that we'd circulated previously, so if you look at one of the main focus areas for the inbound marketing methodology, you of course have the content mapping and auditing strategy right in the beginning, where you're looking at taking a full inventory of the content that a client already has on their website and how you can repurpose that content based on the different target audiences and personas that a client has. And then you're also looking at the next stage of your inbound campaign, which is all about starting up with your offer and then building content focused around your effort, right? So as you can see, there's a lot of focus on content because that's kind of like your main key driver of the entire inbound marketing strategy based on your different personas, right? A lot of the times the clients sort of like are very wary when it comes to content, and they want to have complete editorial control over the content, which can slow down your production efforts to a great extent. So if that is a kind of a client you're faced with where you know that it's going to be tough to get buy-in and a lot of autonomy when it comes to producing content and syndicating content, then this is probably not a good fit because it's going to slow down your marketing efforts. It's going to lead to a lot of frustration because a lot of the thrust and a lot of the push when it comes to delivering good results comes from creating these content assets that are then marketed out there so as to attract your target audiences. And if the client's going to be a big hindrance in the actual production process of this content itself, and it's going to take a long time for you to kind of overcome this hurdle of producing the content, then it's going to be a big challenge, and this whole campaign is going to be a nightmare. And I know specific industries like the financial services vertical, the legal industry to a certain extent. I know the clients can be very finicky when it comes to content and what's put out there and what's being written about them. As long as you have their complete buy-in that they're going to have a timely approval process in place and they're not going to delay the whole process, great. Then inbound marketing is definitely a good fit. But this is another qualifier that you kind of take the client through, or you can have a good gauge by yourself. The other aspect is the whole technology aspect of things. So how easily workable is their website? Is it user-friendly to a great extent? Do they have a standardized CMS like WordPress or Magento or Drupal or what have you that they're using? Can we integrate a lot of the codes that HubSpot provides us very easily into the website? Believe it or not, trust me, still in this day and age, we've come across sites where we haven't even been able to incorporate the Google Analytics code because the sites were built in a certain templated fashion. And one example that comes to mind is sites that are developed with the VistaPrint software. So if any of your clients are utilizing the VistaPrint software, then Vista doesn't allow for you to incorporate Google Analytics on their websites. They have their own analytics software. And now this becomes a challenge because you are now relying on somebody else's analytics to determine the results of the campaigns that you're running for them, which is not the best of situations to be in. So these are things that you have to be wary about and source out the opportunity right in the beginning to make sure that from a technology perspective, there's not going to be a lot of hurdles when you are potentially considering inbound marketing for your prospect. The other area to look at, and I would say that this is probably like a sort of like a secondary qualifier, not so much so a primary qualifier, is the access to an email marketing database. Again, it's interesting. We had our first HubSpot mastermind call. The WSI has organized these mastermind call series for the suppliers that are getting certified. They happen every 2 weeks. And Dan Monahan, the founder of WSI, participates in these mastermind calls along with Pete Caputa, who's one of the senior guys from HubSpot. And it's interesting hearing different perspectives from some of the consultants that are undergoing the certification. And one of the consultants did bring about the fact that email marketing was something that they'd not even considered because, they had this whole bad experience with email marketing and they were attributing email marketing with spam, as a result of which they hadn't even built up a database all this while, right? And they did realize the challenge in doing that and the lost opportunity, and they were, going forward going to be pretty disciplined in terms of acquiring databases and keeping a good record of their contacts. But again, this is a secondary qualifier, as I mentioned. Check with their clients, see if they have access to an email database that they've groomed in-house that can consist of either their core customers, their core clients, because email marketing is a pretty crucial integral component to the overall inbound marketing strategy. And if you don't have an email database, that's okay. We can utilize inbound marketing to start building a database for yourselves, which is why I say that this is probably a secondary qualifier, not so much so a primary, disqualifier or qualifier for your prospects. Expectations, just like any campaign, expectations are very important, and HubSpot does pretty good in terms of laying out what you can do in terms of setting expectations for your clients. Every year they do a study for the results or the ROI that clients are seeing by utilizing HubSpot, and they've come up with their own ROI calculator. And in some of the future webinars in our LaunchPad series, we will introduce the ROI calculator so we can share the stats with you and how you can potentially show the potential ROI to a customer that's interested in utilizing HubSpot and the inbound marketing methodology. They do a pretty good job where they break down the ROI in terms of traffic, leads, and conversions, and what the inbound marketers have been experiencing in the past year utilizing HubSpot as far as the lead increases, the traffic increases, and the conversion increases are concerned. So you can utilize that ROI calculator and then give that information to your prospect and get their buy-in. That's very important. If the prospect does have an expectation of doubling traffic in 12 months, yet they're not willing to put in the investment required, or their industry is too competitive for them not to get that much of an increase, you need to be realistic with them. And then finally, there's realistic timelines for results. Again, it's not an overnight thing. An inbound strategy does take time to incorporate in terms of the methodology. There's a lot of strategy and a lot of discussion that takes place, I'd say, in the first 30-45 days when you're trying to put the pillars, the foundation in place in order to actually put the strategy in motion. There's a lot of discussion based around buyer personas that needs to happen, understanding the client's business in and out, so we can strategically advise them on what's the best route for them to go forward. So you need to have realistic timelines for results set up with the clients, and again, that can be based on the potential ROI calculator that HubSpot puts out there for us to use. And again, be very aware of who the decision makers are and how the approval process is going to work with the prospects, because again, we see this all the time. This can be a potentially a huge roadblock, a nightmare for some of the clients that you work with, because they're either really large organizations, so there's different hierarchies of approvals that they have to go through, or the business owner that you're working with is a pretty is a tough nut to crack, and they're either always busy, they don't have time to get to your stuff that needs approval on time. There's a lot of challenges that they have So these are things that you should be aware of, again, when you're looking at prospects for inbound marketing. Timely approvals is definitely key, and I think we addressed this previously as well. Great. So these are some of the points that are sort of like pre-qualifiers for who can be a potentially strong candidate for inbound marketing. Hopefully this has helped you today to make some initial assessments and get some thoughts going in your head on who you can potentially be looking at in terms of your prospects for inbound marketing. But as long as these questions are covered and the majority of the responses to these questions are in the positive side, then your prospect is definitely a good consideration for inbound marketing. And then next week, we're going to talk about what is the next stage once you do realize that a prospect is good for inbound marketing. What do you start doing? What are the ways in which you take the discussion forward with your prospect on positioning inbound marketing to them? So that's going to be addressed next week. All right, good stuff. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at our address, Armando and Info. Holidays are over, so time to get out of the holiday mindset and get to work. Let's see if you have any questions here. So a couple of questions on HubSpot. There's requests for copies of that slide. We certainly will send that out to you. Not an issue. And a couple of requests for links to the infographics. We send that out. And I think that's pretty much it. Terrific. Well, thanks everybody for joining us in our first LaunchPad webinar for 2015. As I mentioned, if any of you are interested in being a part of the panel, that's going to be conducted on the 27th of January. Please feel free to shoot us an email so that this way we can set you up as one of the panelists. And again, as I mentioned, it's going to be a really healthy, open-ended discussion about the goals for 2015, how you foresee 2015 as being. Well, there's actually a couple more questions. Is there a minimum sale value for a good HubSpot client? Mark asks. So Mark, as I mentioned, I mean, you're looking at about $2,500 a month as being sort of like a minimum value where there is a certain, core set of deliverables that can be put together, and you can also have a decent markup. So I'd say sort of like a threshold value is about $2,500 a month. I think that's an okay budget. If you do want a stronger campaign, you're looking at $3,500, $4,000 a month. But I'd say with $2,500, you can at least get some sort of traction with this whole methodology. It's per sale. So $2,500 for the overall sale. And then there'll be a series of deliverables that are associated with these $2,500 in terms of what you'll be doing for the client. Right, so there'll be a combination of content, on-page optimization, the link building, analytics, reporting, etc. That's going to be incorporated in these $2,500 deliverables. All right, no other questions for now. Excellent. Well, thanks once again, and hope everybody has a terrific week. And we look forward to seeing you next week in our LaunchPad webinar Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.